Thank you so very much. I've done this several times. This is my second experience with Zoom. I have Donna McKaylee here with me, who is my tech support wonderful person. I am not a techie, but I do enjoy cooking very much. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do lemon chicken soup. It's a Greek dish, and it is very popular in Greek restaurants. It's got a lot of lemon juice in it and chicken, and it's a meal in itself. I have everything all prepped. It's called mise en place. I have all of the ingredients prepped ahead of time. I prepped everything yesterday so that we would be able to move along with the demonstration without taking time for me to chop and cut things up. So the first step in creating this dish is to determine what kind of chicken to use. And there are two choices. You can either use fresh chicken and saute it, or you can use a good roasted chicken from Costco or wherever you buy pre-roasted chickens and use that meat. I decided to use fresh chicken. I had 2 chicken breasts in the freezer, Costco, of course, and I cut the chicken. Now let's see, how is the best way to show this?
Point towards the
This
camera right there.
Okay, all right. This, can you see that? So what I did is I cut the chicken up into pieces, that you can see, and then salt and peppered the chicken and sauteed it in some olive oil nicely in 2 different batches, and then just put it aside. So the next step is to cook the vegetables. This is called a mirepoix. Mirepoix is a French term, and mirepoix is onions, celery, and carrots. It's very commonly used in almost all French dishes. There is also a similar combination called the Holy Trinity, which is celery and onions and green peppers. And that is very much a component of Cajun cooking or in Louisiana. That's the Holy Trinity that is part of the cooking in that part of the country. So the mirepoix, first of all, gets sauteed. So I'm going to move over to the stove and heat up a little olive oil and saute the mirepoix. I like to use the Le Creuset wonderful pot. I've had this for years. It's heavy and it works very well for sauteing, and then just the whole soup is made in this same pot. So I'm going to add some olive oil, about 2 tablespoons, give or take, in the bottom. And then I will heat that up quickly. And each of these, you use equal parts of onion, celery, and carrots. And the recipe says 1/2 to a cup. I've got a generous cup of each of these vegetables, and we just put them in the pot and stir it around for a little while. It always helps to create these the ingredients to cook them, get them all ready first, mise en place, prepare them in place, and we'll let this cook for about 4 or 5 minutes. And I'm going to put the lid on it and just let it start getting cooked. Then that will take us there. This particular recipe is from a cookbook called The Mediterranean Dish. And Mediterranean cooking, of course, is very much part of a healthy diet. Many people enjoy Mediterranean cooking, which tends to have a lot of vegetables and less meat or fish. Certainly those are in many of the dishes. I'm using chicken here, of course. And there are many, many, many cookbooks, of which I have probably 100 different cookbooks, but I've found much success online with epicurious.com. Epicurious is a wonderful website, and there are now many, many options on the computer for looking up recipes. One of the things that Epicurious started years ago was if you had in your pantry 4 or 5 ingredients and you wanted to know what to do with them, you could actually search on chicken, potatoes, celery, mushrooms, and then it would come up with recipes that used all of those component parts. So that now has been adapted and adopted by other entities on the web, but Epicurious was the first one to do it. So we're going to saute this mirepoix, and then I'm not using mushrooms this time. And the next thing that we do is we add chicken broth. So I use good old Swanson's chicken broth. I like the less sodium variety. And we're going to start by opening a couple of cans. And I may end up using, I probably will use, actually, I think we're going to start with 3 cans of this, and then we may need a 4th depending on how thick we want it to be. All right. Oh, this is sizzling away. Nicely started cooking. Okay. All right. Each can of this broth is about 2 cups. On the side it says it's 14.5 ounces, so it's roughly 2 cups, a little short of 2 cups, a cup being 8 ounces. So let's add the 3rd one. And we'll heat this to boiling, which doesn't take very long. There, we've got 3 cans of stock, and I'm going to put the lid on it and let it come to boiling. Danya, if there is, I've got, this has to cook for about 3 minutes. If anybody did have a question while we're waiting for that to cook, I would certainly entertain it.
Of course. Are there any questions currently from the audience? Feel free to unmute yourself, raise your hand, or put it in the chat. And I actually had a really quick question for you. I'm not familiar as much with Mediterranean cooking, but as my family is Mexican and we like our food spicy sometimes, is there any way to add spice to this meal, or is it usually not really many chilies used in Mediterranean cooking?
Okay, for this particular soup, the spice or the additional flavor really comes from the lemon juice. Mm-hmm. So if you go and put a lot of spices into it, then it kind of obscures the value of the lemon juice. And the lemon juice has nice flavor itself. Mm-hmm. And what you end up with is a light soup that's very flavorful, but not very spicy. So I would say if you want to have a little bit more spice, I would add additional pepper, mm-hmm. just fresh brown pepper, and not try to get, I think adding chilies or any of the real spicy elements would really obscure the flavor, which you really want to enjoy from the lemon juice.
I see. Thank you.
All right, let me check and see if we're boiling here. We're getting there. I've got it on high. Any other questions as we move along? Okay, the next thing I'm going to add as soon as this comes to a boil is the pasta. Now, traditionally, this lemon soup is often made with rice. Rice needs to cook about 20 minutes. I like and prefer to use orzo. Orzo only needs to cook about 7 minutes, and orzo gives it a nice flavor and a little bit of texture. I use a cup of orzo, which I measured, but in this box from the grocery store, it's about 2 cups. So what I have in here is a half a cup of the orzo, and we're going to add that as soon as the liquid comes to a boil. The other thing that I'm going to add after we get the orzo cooked is the lemon sauce, the egg lemon sauce. And the egg lemon sauce is very much key to this dish. It takes 2 eggs that I crack into this container here, and half a cup of lemon juice. And this is whisked together and mixed well. And then once the soup is cooked, then we add the soup liquid to this to temper it so that we don't end up with scrambled eggs in the soup. And this gives the soup flavor and also gives the soup a very nice smooth texture. Let's see how our cooking is coming along. Oh, good. We've got a nice roaring boil coming along right there. So I'm going to add next. I'm going to add the orzo. And I'm going to set the timer for 7 minutes. And then we will finish. This is a rather quick, under 30 minutes production. So it is something that you can make for dinner fairly quickly, especially if you have a roasted chicken in the refrigerator and you need to use it up. This is a really easy, quick way to use that roasted chicken. And so you can have it's a whole meal in itself, and you can have it ready in less than half an hour. One of those 30-minute meals, of which have become very popular. Any other questions as we're waiting for our pasta to cook?
Yes, we had a question from Becky. She was wondering how many servings this makes, and does it freeze well?
Okay, the number of servings, it probably easily is 6 or 8. It depends on whether you're using it as a whole meal or whether you're using it as part of a meal. So we've got 6 cups of give or take 6 cups of broth, 6 cups of broth, which will say if a serving is 8 ounces, that would be about 6 servings for a full meal. By the time you have the vegetables and the chicken, it makes a very generous 6 servings. If you're doing it in addition to a meal, it could easily serve probably 8 or 10.
Great. And does it freeze well?
It freezes fine. I freeze it often. I put it in serving sizes. I like to use the deli quart size containers that you get from Smart and Final. And I will often freeze it in 16 ounce or the half quart containers. I'll get some of those out in a minute. And then freeze it and then thaw it out, and that makes a very nice meal. I live by myself, so that makes a perfect amount for me to have a generous serving for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get those out while we're cooking here, and I'll show you. These are very handy. This is the 16 ounce size, 2 cups, and this is the quart size. That's 4 cups. And once you let it cool down a little bit, so you don't put boiling water in this plastic, put a lid on it, put a label on it, and put it in the freezer, and it will freeze nicely and keep easily for a couple of months.
That's great. And about, this is a question from Ann Skinner about how much chicken can be added. I know you stated some basics in your recipe, but how much would be like the maximum, for example?
Oh, I don't think there is any maximum. This is 2 generous chicken breasts from Costco. And it makes, this is probably about 2 to 3 cups. I would say, depending on how meaty you want it to be, you can add as much chicken as you want. And it makes it more like a stew. If you add more chicken and have less liquid, then it's more like a stew because it's thicker. And that works too. And that's a nice thing for if it's a whole meal.
Mm-hmm.
Let me check on my cooking here.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yes. Oh, this is doing well. Just waiting for the timer. Okay, another question?
Yes. Rosemary asks, what type of lemons do you use, Meyer or regular?
You can use either. I used, for this particular one, I just used regular lemons that come in a bag at Costco or the grocery store. But if you have a lemon tree and you want to use your own lemons and it's Meyer lemons, it just makes it a little sweeter because the Meyer lemons are sweeter than the regular lemons, but that works fine too. Mm-hmm. So I would say, and I use for this recipe 1/2 cup of lemon juice. If you want it more lemony, you can add more lemon juice. And sometimes for garnish, I'm not doing that today, but if you want to make a really pretty presentation, you can slice some lemons thinly and put the lemons on top with some parsley. I cut up some parsley to use as a garnish when we're finished. So this is a very flexible recipe. It's not like when you're baking and you have to make sure everything is measured just right. This is a recipe you can work with and make it thicker or thinner depending on your preference.
I see. And then quick question, because the price of eggs has really gone up nowadays, where are you getting your eggs for the egg lemon sauce?
I got 2 dozen at Costco a few days ago for $5.99.
Okay.
But the last time I got eggs at the grocery store, a dozen were $6. And I have a friend who has chickens, so sometimes I have fresh chicken eggs, but I can't depend on that. So her chickens aren't laying as well with the cold, wet weather. So I had to break down and buy eggs at Costco.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I think we are just about there. We are. So, excellent. We have reached our, okay, oh, perfect. All right, so what I'm getting ready to do now, this is a half cup measuring scoop. I'm going to put a couple of scoops of broth into this egg and lemon. And so it's called tempering, so that we don't end up with scrambled eggs in our soup. Letting that continue to cook. We're gonna stir this up really well. We've got all of this ready. And we are going to add the chicken first, now that we've got that ready. And heat this up as the chicken is already all nice and cooked. It just needs to have about a minute to get completely hot. And what we've ended up with now is a fairly thick soup. I'll let that heat for about a minute. Let the chicken get integrated in, and then we are going to add our egg and lemon. So we're going to let this get good and hot, and then we're going to add the lemon, and then we are going to have soup finished. Okay. All right. Let me take this off the heat and bring it over here. Take a look, Donna. Oh. Now I'm going to stir in lemon. All right, it's done. We can add a little parsley, which I'll stir in to give it a little color. And then we'll use the rest on a bowl. I have some wonderful bowls that make it very pretty. Presentation is always nice. This is about a cup of a little more than a ladle. The ladles are 4 ounces, so this is about 10 ounces with some parsley on the top. And here we are.
That's beautiful.
Can you see it? Now Donna gets to taste.
Oh, this is my lucky day.
Have a spoon, dear.
Thank you.
Tell us if it needs salt and pepper.
Yeah, so that was actually one of the questions in the chat is, are you adding salt and pepper or just afterwards?
I had salt and pepper on the chicken, and I would add the pepper, salt and pepper at this point. How is it?
I wouldn't change a thing.
You wouldn't add any salt.
Mm.
I use
No.
generous salt and pepper when I cook the chicken. And so I don't add more salt and pepper until the end. And then it can be added by individuals by taste. I have this handy dandy little dual fresh salt and fresh pepper if people want to add more. So what do you think, Donna?
I've died and gone to heaven.
So that's it, Vanya. That's all there is to it.
Great. So we do have a few more questions.
Sure.
Debbie Wank said that in your last presentation, you showed a really helpful tool, a can opener helper. And so people are wondering
yes.
what that is.
Yes, this is this little guy. This little guy is a very handy tool for snap tops. So I think some of the ingredients I used before had the snap tops. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Like this. This is a
Pop top.
pop top, and you lift it up, and then you put this underneath, and then it will take the top off. So there. This is a can of tomatoes that I'm not adding to this soup, but I'll use for something else. Is that what you're talking about, Vanya?
I
This little
believe
guy?
so. Yes, so the camera is a bit lower now, so we can't. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's all right. Yeah, perfect. So that's really helpful. Yeah, Debbie Wang said that's been a godsend to her. So now she has a similar device as well.
Yeah.
That's
They're
They're
really
not
helpful
very
because
expensive. It's called, this one is called AvriAid, AVRIAID, from Amazon, and it's less than $5, I think, or, certainly less than 10. But it is for people who have difficulty with the pop tops, which certainly is true as we get older and have some arthritis in our hands and find it very difficult to work those pop tops, which also are on a lot of beverages. This thing is a lifesaver. Okay, other questions?
Just a few comments. It looks perfect for a cool/rainy day, says Ann Skinner, and I agree. I think I'm going to be making this soon with the weather we're having.
Yes, I think I'm going to get me a bowl, and Donna and I are going to have early lunch.
Any additional questions from our audience members?
As I said, this is easily less than 30 minutes, especially if you use roasted chicken. So it didn't take that long to do the chicken. What I do is I take the chicken breast and I cut it in half, and then I flatten it, and then I cut it up into squares. It's important when you do any kind of cooking like this that your pieces are about the same size. So the onion, the carrot, and the celery, all I cut up to be in similar sizes so that they cook at the same rate. And then the chicken, I made the chicken the same size, all the pieces about the same size so it would cook at the same rate.
Perfect. I don't see any other questions, but thank you so much. This was a wonderful food demo. And Donna, we are jealous of you right now.
Donna has a comment.
I have a quick comment for everyone, and that is that if you are gluten intolerant, orzo is a pasta, and if you make it with rice, then it would be gluten-free. So for those of us who cannot eat gluten, it's still a fantastic recipe.
And the rice works just fine. And I've done it with rice many times. It just has to cook longer. And so for today's demo, I didn't want to spend 20 minutes cooking rice. So that's why I opted for the orzo.
Would you cook the rice first then?
No, well, you can use leftover rice. This is a good use for leftover rice. You would just add it at the same time you add the chicken, because you don't want to overcook. If it's already cooked, in essence, you just want to add it at the end when you add the cooked chicken, and that works fine too.
Fantastic. All right, you can all thank me and join me in thanking Marguerite Jackson for this wonderful presentation. This will be on the dinner menu today for myself. Thank you.
My pleasure. Enjoy.
Thanks, Vanya.
Thank you, Donna, for your help. Goodbye, everyone.
My
Bye,
pleasure.
Thank you.
everybody.
bye.